It's the Daily Dog.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Daily Dog. I am thankful that you're hanging out with me today. My friends, you made it. It is a Friday. It's the end of another work week, and I am thankful that you're hanging out with me because it's time to party a little bit. We're going to let our guard down and listen to a little Frank Zappa music, and I'm glad that you are with me. It was a couple days ago that Icky one of our Patreon members, reminded me that I have not yet finished listening to Frank's album called Apostrophe. We listened to side one previously here on the channel, Yellow Snow Suite. We listened to that in December, and then Cosmic Debris, also from side one, we listened to in January. And so now we're going to finish out the album and listen to side two. This is a kick that we've been on recently of finishing out these albums that we've only listened to half of. So I'm excited to get to side two today. Apostrophe is Frank's fifth solo album. He released it in 1974, and this one remains his most commercially successful album. As I read in, the lyrical content ranges from humorous to bizarre and even political at times, and I am sure that the musical content is similarly going to be unique and varied. I would name all of the musicians that Frank has on this. There's a ton of them. He's got 10 different people listed on backing vocals. He's got 3 different drummers just on this side, and a whole slew of musicians that are with him. If you want to find out who's with him, you can look that up. But we're going to dive right in, y'all. We've got 4 songs up for us today. The first one is called Ex-centrifugal Forz. And that one, just from the title, sounds intriguing. So let's start off with this one. It looks like it's a very short track, so I am curious to see what he does with this. Excentifugal Forz from Frank Zappa. From Frank Zappa. Here we go. Already unique.
The clouds are really cheap, the way I seen them through the ports, of which there is a half a dozen on the base of my resorts. You wouldn't think I'd have too many, since I never cared for sports.
Never really lonely
Never really
in my
lonely
Ex-centrifugal
in my
Forz.
Ex-centrifugal Forz.
That chord hasn't changed.
There's always Cola Plankton. Him and me can play the blues. And then I'll watch him buff that tiny ruby that he used. He'll straighten up his turban and eject the little ooze along a one-celled Hammond organism underneath my shoe.
I love it. I love it. The chord still hasn't changed. They're an A.
And I'll call Pulp Tentacle. I'll ask him how's his chin. I'll find out how the
So he's from the future.
is, because that's where he's been. His little feet got long and flexible, and
unbelievably
suckers fell
interesting.
right in. The time it crossed the line from later on, the way back when.
That really is the whole song. That's incredible, my friends. It just goes to show you, if somebody asks you, how many chords do I need to make a really interesting and fun song? Frank has shown that you only need 1. That was an A minor chord, A minor 7 maybe, throughout. And all of the rest of it was just kind of over the top of it. That's cool. My notes for this song, since I didn't get to tell it to you while it was going, was recorded back in the Hot Rats sessions from 1969. The title is a blend of the word eccentric, which basically just means to be like deviating from the norm, right? And the phrase centrifugal force, right? Which is the force that keeps the water in the bucket when you swing it over your head, right? And so he says, I'm never really lonely in my ex-centrifugal force. He's like, yeah, I'm just hanging out, being frank, and I can amuse my own self. And then there actually is a musician. So he says there's always Corla Plankton. Him and me can play the blues. There was a musician named Corla Pandit who did actually wear a turban and played the organ. So this is based, I think, on an actual musician. I don't know if they actually did play the blues, but that would be cool to see if they actually did. But on we go, y'all. The next song is the title track. It is called Apostrophe, and it is an instrumental track. This features Cream bassist Jack Bruce and session drummer Jim Gordon, as well as Frank on the guitar. So off we go with Apostrophe. Here we go. That is a present bass part. Down to subtonic. Back to D. Down to C. If I do like Frank and only do like added seconds instead of actual triads. Something different now. Static chords so far, right? Where he's extending this bass harmony and just riffing over the top of one chord. It's almost Frank Zappa funk. Frank funk. He started in D, and now he moved to B minor. His guitar was turned up a little bit in this mix. The bass dominates it a little bit too much over the drums and the guitar, I think. Sticking in that one chord. That's over an E chord, E minor 7. Sounds kind of like an open jam session. Like they're all just improvising. That's what it sounds like. Because it's not very complicated. And they're just riffing. double time in the drums. Yeah, I mean, you could almost do. I mean, come on. It's just a static chord, right? They started in D, he went to B minor, and now he's in E minor. Getting near the end of this one. It's gonna fade out. Well, I'll be darned. You know, of all of the songs that I've heard off of this album so far, that's the title track, and it's the least interesting, as far as I'm concerned, that I've heard off of this particular track of album. That's interesting. It's lovely, but the other stuff is so quirky and interesting. And I have high hopes for the next one here. This is called Uncle Remus. And when I read in, I found some very interesting information about this particular tune. So Frank co-wrote this with his keyboard player, a great keyboard player, George Duke. And the song Uncle Remus takes its name from the fictional character that was created by journalist and author Joel Chandler Harris. So Uncle Remus is the title character and narrator of these African-American folk tales in some books that Harris wrote. He wrote 7 of them all told, and the stories all speak to the struggles of African-Americans due to rampant racism, specifically in the post-construction era of the late 1800s. And so they are taking this idea and basically talking to Uncle Remus and asking how we're doing. We're catching up in the early 70s and seeing how we're doing with racism and freedom and all of that good stuff, right? So let's see what ends up happening here with Uncle Remus by Frank Zappa. Here we go. Great keyboards from George. There's a fun little 5, 6. Oh, whoa. Whoa.
Are we moving too slow? Have you seen Uncle Remus? We look pretty sharp in these clothes. Yes, we do.
We look pretty sharp, Uncle Remus.
Get sprayed with a hose. It ain't bad in the day if they squirt it your way. Except in the winter when it's froze.
The bass is great. The keyboard is great. Slightly out of tune. I love the sound of this. Move to the major key. Relative major, I think. That's like the minor 4 in the major key, but then he goes to relative minor.
Will that redeem us, Uncle Remus? I can't wait till my bro is full grown. I'll just throw away my do-rag at home. I'll take a drive to Beverly Hills.
It's got a great gospel vibe to it as well. And knock the little jockeys off the rich people's lawn. thinking about playing along, but I wouldn't be able to add anything. There's too many chords that are just slipping around. And that one's gonna fade out. Why isn't that song longer? I need that song to be about twice that length. That may be, my friends, on first listen, that I think that may be one of my favorite Frank songs that I've heard. That was a really neat little... That sounds more like a straight-ahead rock tune or gospel tune for the radio than pretty much anything from Frank that I've heard. And it sounded like it was just like a four-person combo. Like I heard bass, I heard guitar, I heard keyboards, I heard drums, and then I heard Frank singing. Fascinating. This, a little bit more about it. The lyrics here. I believe that Frank is offering a rebuke of the civil rights movement of the day in the 70s when he wrote this. And specifically about some of the needed reforms still in the civil rights movement that were not being realized. And how the protests during that era were waning while the problems were not. And I think a few of these references to clothes, we look pretty sharp in these clothes, are a reference to maybe people starting to be interested more in fashion and frivolous things instead of the freedoms and the treatment of people during that time. He mentions lawn jockeys. I'll take a drive to Beverly Hills just before dawn and knock the little jockeys off the rich people's lawn. Lawn jockeys were these little statues that I think depicted some black people with exaggerated features, and he's wanting to get rid of them. And maybe tying them to rich people is a connection between classism and racism, maybe in Frank's mind. That was really cool. The highlight of that for me was getting to hear some of George Duke's piano playing, just ripping it up in there. Really cool. We move on to the last song, my friends, and this one is called Stinkfoot. And I cannot wait to see what happens here, because I read through these lyrics, and it's going to be a wild, fun ride, I do believe. So let's see what is in store for us as we listen to Stinkfoot from Frank Zappa. Here we go.
In the dark,
Right into it.
where all the fevers grow, under the water, where the shark bubbles blow.
One.
In the morning, by your radio, do the walls close in to suffocate ya? You ain't got no friends, and all the others, they hate ya. Does the life you've been leading gotta go?
Well, let me straighten you out.
About a place I know,
Get your shoes and socks on, people. It's right around the corner.
Let's get ready to go.
out through the night and the whispering breezes, to the place where they keep the imaginary diseases. Out through the night and the whispering breezes, to the place where they keep the imaginary diseases.
This has to be the disease for you. Now, scientists call this disease bromidrosis, but us regular folks, who might wear tennis shoes or an occasional python boot, know this exquisite little inconvenience by the name of
Stinkfoot.
Whoa,
You know,
that was cool.
My python boot is too tight.
Cool.
I couldn't get it off last night.
When he introduces the name of Stinkfoot, it turns to C diminished instead
And
of
now it's
C.
July. I finally got it off, and my girlfriend cried, "You got Stinkfoot,
You got Stinkfoot. Hate to tell you
Stinkfoot,
this.
darling. Your Stinkfoot puts a hurt on my nose. Stinkfoot, Stinkfoot, I ain't lying.
Subtonic.
And you rinse it off, do you suppose?
here, Fido. Fido. Come here, little puppy. Give me the slippers. Barf, barf, barf.
Fido isn't happy. Such a neat little groove, isn't it? Largely around one note. It's the C, then subtonic, then back. So he's got these two chords, but you can pretty much play him around C and just have a good old time. I read that this is a song that was inspired by a commercial where a man removes his shoes and the dog passes out from the odor. It was a commercial for a foot spray. And only Frank is like, that sounds like a song. A closing song of an album. What are you gonna do? What kind of effect Frank has on his guitar to make it sound like that?
Well, then Fido got up off the floor and he rolled over and he looked me straight in the eye. And you know what he said?
The dog talks?
Once upon a time, somebody say to me, this is a dog talking now, what is your conceptual continuity?
Dog has excellent grasp of language.
Well, I told him right then, Fido said. It should be easy to see. The crux of the biscuit is the apostrophe.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds
Well, you
cool.
know, the man that was talking to the dog looked at the dog and he said, sort of staring in disbelief, "You can't say that."
No shit.
He said, "It doesn't, and you can't. I won't, and it don't. It hasn't.
Okay.
It isn't. It even ain't, and it shouldn't.
Okay.
It couldn't." He told me, no, no, no. I told him, yes, yes, yes. I said, I do it all the time. Ain't this boogie a mess?
This is the oddest thing I have ever heard, y'all. Consider this a weird Wednesday that's just taking place during a Masterpiece Friday. The poodle bites. Poodle bites. The poodle chews it. Chews. Is the dog eating the stinky foot? The stinky shoe? I need to try listening to this again when I am dead stone. Might be a completely different experience. Just largely staying in that one chord. And that one's gonna fade out. Well, you know, I think in all the time that I've been doing these reaction videos, that's one of the more unique sides of an LP that I think I've ever listened to. Really interesting. We got 4 songs. It's not a long side. Friends, Ex-centrifugal Forz had 1 chord, right? for like a minute and a half or 2 minutes. Apostrophe was a relatively static instrumental. Uncle Remus is a cool ass tune with some political and racial undertones there. And then Stinkfoot, the dog talks, friends, and we've got a situation with some nasty smelling feet, right? So, and all of it's called Apostrophe. What a unique and interesting singular person Frank was, and I'm glad he was a musician because he could have probably done anything he wanted to in this life. I think he was that smart, but he left us with some glorious and interesting things to listen to, didn't he? This has been quite a fun Masterpiece Friday, my friends. Listening to side 2 of Apostrophe from from Frank Zappa. Thanks to Icky Doo for reminding me that I needed to get to finish this one out. I think now that we have done this one, all of the sides that are left hanging here in the Daily Doug repertoire are complete. So I need to start diving into some new full listens for some of these Masterpiece Fridays. But that's it for today, my friends, and this week. I am pleased to have been presenting and listening to Apostrophe, Side 2 by Frank Zappa. Thanks for hanging out with me today, y'all. This was fun. We'll see you next time on another edition of the Daily Doug.